Following up with our video of Brag the Gutsman, I want to go into another Ogre Kingdom Lord. And we still don't really know what the Ogre Kingdoms are going to be like in Total War Warhammer 3, but I do want to keep going through some of these lords, as well as some of the lords from the 6th edition, so we have at least an idea of the lore or some of the teasers coming our way from the actual tabletop, as far as the legendary lords of what we will get in Total War Warhammer 3. As far as future Ogre Kingdoms content, I'd love to kind of curate it around what you guys want. So do you want to know more about the clans? Do you want to know more about the actual army roster itself? I mean, I will be doing an army roster video, but I'm probably going to do these lord videos, the lore of the Ogre Kingdoms as a whole, and then the army roster video. But if there's anything else you guys want to know about, as far as maybe the individual clans like we have for the Skaven and such, I can do those. Just give me an idea of some things you want to know about the Ogre Kingdoms, and I'm more than happy to provide the goodies to you all. So today, we're going to do a new lord here in Skrag the Slaughterer. And we'll read through the lore blurb about Skrag directly from the 8th edition Warhammer army book for the Ogre Kingdoms. Then we'll go into his magic items and his special rules. He's got a lot of really cool ones, and we'll read a little fun lore blurb at the end of it by Gorg Three Fingers. So let's dive right in here with Skrag the Slaughterer. Skrag is the legendary prophet of the Great Maw, also known as the Great Gore Harvester and the Maw that walks. Dragging his massive meat pot behind him, attached to his back with a series of painful tearing hooks and chains, Skrag hacks and rips at his enemies in a glorious blood-fueled dedication to the Great Maw. In his wake, he leaves a trail of dismembered limbs and body parts, which it is the duty of his gore nobblers to retrieve and deposit into his cauldron. Once the head slaughtermaster of the tyrant Brawn Rockgrinder, Skrag had a dramatic fall in fortune when he accidentally cooked and served up the tyrant's favored nobbler on a platter at a great feast. In a rage, the notoriously bad-tempered tyrant hacked off Skrag's hands and devoured them, cheered on by the drunken ogres at the feast, and then banished the slaughtermaster to the cursed undercaves of the mountain. Skrag was led from the feast in shame, beaten and bloody. As a final punishment, Rockgrinder ordered that Skrag's great cauldron be attached to his back by a series of chains and hooks anchored deep in the slaughtermaster's flesh. Skrag was hurled into the dreaded caverns beneath the mountain, and the way out sealed by a giant boulder. Refusing to despair, Skrag rammed his butcher's implements into his wrist stumps, forming makeshift weapons. Bleeding and bruised, Skrag stumbled ever deeper into the dank labyrinth, dragging his meat pot behind him until, in the pitch darkness, he was set upon by a pack of ravenous gorgers. Skrag hacked around him, ripping and cutting countless assailants before he came face to face with the grotesque, hulking creature that ruled over the other gorgers. Skrag ripped the foul creature's throat out with his teeth. The other gorgers backed away from Skrag, respecting him as one of their own. Driven by visions of bloody revenge, Skrag led his gorgers up into the mountains until they surfaced in the dead of night deep within the maw pit of Rockgrinder. Emerging in a frenzy, he led his gorgers in a grand feast dedicated to his god, ripping apart and consuming every ogre present. Rockgrinder himself was pulled apart and boiled in Skrag's meat pot as an offering to the Great Maw. As he had made this dedication, Skrag felt his wounds knit together as powerful energies surged through his body. Having emerged from the maw pit to devour his foes, Skrag is regarded with awe and fear by even the most terrible of tyrants, who see him as a living embodiment of their god. His gorgers remain his ever-present guardians, shadowing him wherever he goes, for by following his familiar scent, they are guaranteed fresh kills to feed their insatiable appetites, and as such they revere him as their savior. When Skrag feeds his maw cauldron with bloody meat, he is rewarded with tremendous powers, making him nearly unstoppable and able to withstand the most severe of wounds. It is only once per battle that has ended, and there are none other left to slaughter, that his power diminishes and the chains to his cauldron fall slack. Within days, however, visions drive him onwards to satiate his god's hunger, and so Skrag must once again seek battle. So, pretty crazy lore here with Skrag. He is one of the only actual caster lords for the, well, at least for the 8th edition. He is the only caster lord for the 8th edition Legendary Lords. There is some 6th edition action we'll go into when we touch on that, but he is a level 4 wizard in the tabletop, meaning he's a particularly good wizard, and he uses the lore of the Great Maw. And we've gone over that in our Great Maw video on the lore of the Great Maw for the Ogre Kingdoms. But he basically has these, as we've discovered from the lore, he's got these stump blades, is what they're called, and they're basically 2 hand weapons. So how does that really kind of pan out? Maybe he's going to have an anti-infantry on his character profile, because part of his special rules, he has frenzy, he's got immune to poison, he's got killing blow, he's got that dreaded ogre charge we've talked about, and he causes terror. So from just a simple perspective of stats, he's probably going to have a frenzy capability. He probably is going to be immune to poison, and he'll probably have the way that what's it called? Total War does killing blow is they'd like to do that AP and that anti-infantry characteristic, and the fact that he's got 2 hand weapons, that kind of leads into it as well. Maybe they'll give him a heroic killing blow activatable ability, but I think that might be a little too overkill, because he does have his Cauldron of the Great Maw, and it's a really, really cool ability. So let's read into this here. So Skrag's Cauldron has become a tool by which the former Slaughtermaster makes blessed offerings to his ravenous god. And we'll go more into the Great Maw itself and why it is called the Ravenous God, but we'll talk about that. That's neither here nor there. But the way that this thing works, and I'm not really sure how this is going to work in Total War Warhammer. Maybe it would be something like you've got a runesmith on their rune forge, so maybe it'll be kind of something like that. But this is something that he's going to be carrying around with him. So it's not something that he's it tethers him and keeps him on location. Not like the Roomba is for the Tomb Kings, the what you call the Casket of Souls. But it's really interesting because the way this works is every time that Skrag kills something or a model, it grants him and it's Gorgers. The actual unit is called a Gorger. It grants both of them certain abilities, and it's really fucking cool. So if Skrag kills 1 model, he gains regeneration. If he kills 5 or more, he gets an extra attack. So maybe we would see that as melee attack speed. If he kills 10 or more, he gains hatred. So maybe this would give him some sort of immune to psychology or some sort of stubborn capability. If he kills 15 or more, he is unbreakable. So that would be the actual immune to psychology there. So it's really cool. So as he does more damage, he gets more benefits. Almost kind of like what we see with the Blessed Black Coach, and how the Black Coach, the longer it's in combat, the more abilities it gets over time. So that'll be a really cool way to have Skrag kind of come into the battlefield, lumbering this giant meat pot around, and at the same time, every time he kills things, he maybe gains regeneration. It triggers maybe even like Realm of Souls, where after a certain threshold is triggered, abilities happen. That'd be all really damn cool. And the effects on the Gorgers are actually different. And it's not, these are a little bit harder to, well, at least the first one's a little bit harder to make a translation to Total War. The first one, the actual verbatim rule is all Gorgers that have not entered play do so in their next turn. That's not really going to be a big issue here. So I love to see it infer some sort of army-wide benefit. It's not unheard of. We see that in plenty of other characters, but it'd be really cool to just see this Lord chucking this meat pot around, slamming into things, and at the same time, it's always benefiting himself. It's going to give him more abilities, it's going to give him more generation, some more attack speed, whatever it is that they want to make this translation into. At the same time, it might actually kind of help, almost like Thorgrim's book, right? It increases melee attack and I think it's melee defense, 2 things around him, making your standard dwarf warrior an even better dwarf warrior. So maybe it does something like that, where only things around him rather than the entire army wide. It depends on how they want to take this. But Skrag the Slaughterer is such a unique lord, not just for Total War Warhammer, but just for Warhammer in general. Every name lord has a little bit of uniqueness about it, but very few things have anything like this at all in the game, period. So to see something like that, and to see it actually make a translation to Total War Warhammer would be really exciting. So I hope they actually keep the Cauldron of the Maw, the Great Maw, if they do add Skrag, in some sort of buffing mechanic kind of type of way. They've already done a pretty good job of doing a good justice to anything like this already. But let's kind of move away here from from the rules, from the lore, and I want to read a little piece here by Gorg Three Fingers. He's an ogre man-eater, and we'll do it in a fun, creative way. We'll see how this goes.
You don't want to look him in the eye, Boltgut. Trust me on that. I saw him at the Battle of Bloodrock, and it weren't pretty. Skrag was a whirling cleaver surrounded by a red mist. Chunks of flesh and bone were flying around everywhere. He went through them elves like a saber tusk through a bag of noblers. Spears was breaking on his skin like he was made of rocks. All the while those elves was screaming and he was chopping them up and chunking the bits of their bodies into his pot. That was when the Gorgers arrived, dozens of them, sniffing and grunting as they followed his scent. Then the real slaughter started.
Well, there's that. Gorge Three Fingers. He stepped into the studio here. It's not a studio, it's my bedroom. To read that little bit for us. And pretty much usually all these lords have some sort of little blurb that kind of gives you perspective on who they are or how other races or how other actual individuals within that race respond to that lore. But that kind of that completes our video here today on Skrag the Slaughterer. We do have some big ones up ahead, like Golgthag Maneater and Greasus Goldtooth. You know, the Over Tyrant, the big honcho here. So don't worry, we will definitely touch on those guys. But also some of the other ones from 6th edition that didn't make that jump to 8th edition. And I bring up 6th edition so much because 7th and 8th edition have the same exact amount of tabletop lords, from what I recall. And 6th edition has a couple that just didn't quite make it all the way across the years. But I hope you guys enjoyed this video here, and I hope you're starting to get a really good sense for not only how these monstrous lords, because they're not infantry, they're going to be monstrous infantry special characters, how they're going to pan out, but I hope you're also getting a good sense for how the ogre society works, right? You're dealing with a lot of cannibalism, you're dealing with a lot of tribal mentality, and a lot of outright stupidity. And there's a lot of fear-mongering and stuff like that. So I hope you're getting a little bit more and more of a taste of the Ogre Kingdoms as we go along. But thanks for watching here today, guys. Don't forget to like the video. That helps me out a ton. And also go ahead and make a comment about anything you'd like to see about the Ogre Kingdoms or any questions you have on Skrag or, again, any other legendary lords that are coming out. But thanks for watching here today, guys. Have a good one and take care.